Hi, my name is John Haslow. I'm a Stephen minister, and I'm happy to have this opportunity to talk to you about Stephen ministry and perhaps more importantly, Stephen ministry and myself. My journey to becoming a Stephen minister began about 5 years ago. I was visiting with Pastor Craig one day, and he said, John, have you ever considered being a Stephen minister? I was quick to say, no, that's not something I want to do, I don't think. Well, he waited a while. I think it was one evening, Pastor Craig and I were hauling some tables and chairs down to the downtown Scottsbluff for the National Night Out. And as I was driving down there, he looked over at me and said, John, have you considered being a Stephen minister? Again, I said, Craig, thank you for your confidence, but I just don't have the confidence. I can't do that. He caught me a third time. I was up at the church for some reason. I was in his office, and he said, now, John, have you thought about becoming a Stephen minister? I said, yes, I've thought about it. I've given it a lot of consideration, and I just don't think I have the skills or the background to be a Stephen minister. He said, well, John, there's a 50-hour training course that you go through. You'll get all the skills, all the background, everything you need to know. You'll be a great Stephen minister. He said, why don't you at least go fill out the application? I said, there's an application. I don't just volunteer. He said, well, we're just to get some basic information. So I filled out the application and turned it in. And a couple of days later, I got a call from one of the Stephen leaders and said, we'd like you to come in for an interview. Well, I was okay. So I came in and they asked me several questions, a lot about my beliefs, my faith, my concerns, and I felt I gave good answers, but I still wasn't sure that this is for me. So as they dismissed me, I said, well, thank you for your time, and I want you to know that if you decide I'm not qualified to be a Stephen minister, you're not going to hurt my feelings one bit. But a couple of days later, I got another call and said, your training starts in a week and 3 days or whatever it was. So I'm not going to talk a lot about the training except to tell you that in the training you do get all the skills you need. You get techniques and ideas of how to get the people to come out of their shell and really address their problems. It's not up to us as Stephen ministers to cure the person of whatever ills they have. It's only up to us to help them think and talk through the problems so that they come up with solutions on their own. We are taught the power of prayer. We're taught that we are not healers. We are caregivers, and God is the cure giver. I'd like to share with you a couple of things, a couple of experiences I've had. About 6 or 7 weeks into our training, I was sitting in my recliner looking at my trainer's training manual, and slowly, not suddenly, but slowly, a warm, tingly, almost like a wave came over me. I was a little frightened, definitely confused, disillusioned. But after that passed, I came to the belief that that was Jesus. He came to tell me I made the right decision. Well, several weeks later, I was paired up with a care receiver. So we met about once every 2 weeks, but we extended our sessions out to about 2 hours each. We met for 2 years. Just a few weeks ago, we decided it was time to close our Stephen minister relationship, but not necessarily go our separate ways. We're meeting every couple of weeks for lunch and discussion. We have even discussed some of the forbidden topics such as religion and politics. Some other experiences. My wife and I lost our son about 8 months ago. And I was sent right away to get my granddaughter from school. I went in, I explained to the principal why I had to get Aspen out early. He put his arm out on me, prayed for all of us. I don't know the man other than to know he was the principal at her school. When I went to my first Stephen Ministers meeting after that incident, the whole entire group, including Pastor Craig, laid hands on me, prayed for me. It was very moving. About 2 months ago, I was on a mission trip to Mexico with some other Methodist men, and I had a conversation with a contact person there who is himself a Mexican minister. And I explained to him why I was wearing the cross around my neck, which was in remembrance of my son. And he right away called 2 of his friends to come over. They prayed over me. Just about 2 weeks ago, I had finished swimming my laps at the YMCA, and I was leaving the building, and there was another gentleman coming out at the same time. And he looked over at me and said, "Jesus loves you." I was a little stunned, but I went ahead and told him about my son's passing. And we stood out there in front of the YMCA, and he put his arm around me and he prayed for me. I'm convinced that all of these experiences I've had are related to me becoming a Stephen minister. I encourage you, if anyone asks you to think about being a Stephen minister, well, just consider it a little bit. Please do consider it seriously. It'll do a world of good for you as well as your care receiver. It's just a wonderful feeling knowing that you're able to help someone. And remember, if you decide to become a Stephen minister, God will be there to guide you.